Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to dive straight into what is absolutely, without a doubt, the ultimate leadership challenge of our era, navigating a workplace that is more age diverse than ever before in history. We're talking about a fundamental, ground-up shift in how our teams operate, how they communicate, and ultimately how they succeed. So if you've been feeling this weird, lingering friction on your team lately and just couldn't quite put your finger on why, well, you are definitely in the right place. Let's get into it. Okay, let's kick things off with a pretty massive stake in the ground, the number 5. Yep, 5. Because for the very first time in modern industrialized history, we literally have 5 distinct generations sharing the exact same workplace at the exact same time. We've got traditionalists, baby boomers, Generation X, Millennials, and Generation Z. All of them are logging on, sitting in the exact same meetings, and supposedly trying to drive toward the exact same goals. And guys, this demographic landscape, it is shifting incredibly fast. By the year 2030, a staggering 75% of the global workforce is going to be made up of just 2 of those generations, Millennials and Gen Z. We are right in the middle of a massive changing of the guard, and it is fundamentally altering the entire DNA of our workplace culture. Which brings us to the real punchline of this rapid-fire data, and it's a critical one. Right now, 60% of employees are reporting generational conflict as a top challenge at work. I mean, really think about that for a second. More than half of your workforce is experiencing daily friction simply based on the age and the generational perspectives of the people sitting next to them. This isn't just some minor HR quirk we can brush off. It's a full-blown operational crisis that we absolutely cannot ignore if we actually want our teams to perform. So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First, the multi-generational workplace crisis. Second, meet the 5 generations. Third, mistakes that alienate teams. Fourth, the leadership adaptation framework. And finally, turning diversity into advantage. All right, Section 1, the multi-generational workplace crisis. Before we can even think about solving the problem, we really need to understand the root of it. What exactly is a generation anyway? Well, a generational cohort is basically a group of individuals who are born and live concurrently, and they share common knowledge and experiences that fundamentally affect their thoughts, attitudes, values, beliefs, and behaviors. So the absolute crucial point here is that it's not just about a number or an age. It's about how massive shared global events, things like economic booms, huge recessions, technological revolutions, how those things actually shape our baseline values and our expectations when we walk through the office doors. Section 2. Meet the 5 generations. Now, what's super interesting here is the current balance of power. Millennials and Generation X currently make up the lion's share of the workforce, sitting at 35% and 33% respectively. Basically, they're the core engine of today's workplace. Meanwhile, our baby boomers are holding very steady at 25%, and they are bringing decades of absolutely vital institutional knowledge. Then on the fringes, we have our traditionalists, those born before 1946, making up about 2%, and Gen Z is rapidly entering the chat at 5%. And here's the thing, every single slice of this pie brings a completely different set of expectations to the table. And when we put these preferences side by side, it brilliantly illustrates exactly where those friction points pop up. Take baby boomers, for example. Their core motivators often include status and impact. They usually prefer picking up the phone or having face-to-face chats, and they expect regular structured check-ins. Now, jump all the way down the line to Gen Z. They are deeply motivated by authenticity and stability. They highly prefer text, video, or async communication, and they want ongoing, transparent, real-time feedback. Just imagine a boomer manager expecting a formal hour-long weekly sit-down while their Gen Z direct report is just sitting there waiting for a quick ping on Slack to know how they're doing. Neither approach is wrong, but that gap is exactly where conflict breeds. Section 3. Mistakes that alienate teams. So let's talk about where we mess this up. The first massive trap is managing by stereotype. Let me be super clear on this. Assuming every single millennial just wants flexible hours or that every boomer completely resists new technology is frankly lazy leadership. Generational awareness is a starting point, okay? It's not a final answer. Instead, the ideal behavior is starting with the individual. You literally have to discover what the actual living, breathing person sitting in front of you needs to thrive. Use their generation as loose context, absolutely, but definitely not as a strict rulebook. The second big mistake is the one-size-fits-all communication trap. Look, if you're a leader who only communicates via long, incredibly detailed emails simply because that's what you prefer, and you just expect everyone else to read your 3-page memos, you're going to lose half your team. You just will. Contrast that with intentional flexing. A truly adaptive leader actually audits their communication channels and proactively flexes them. They meet employees where they communicate best, whether that's shooting a quick async video update, sending a structured memo, or just doing a classic face-to-face drop-in.
Trap number 3 is allowing generational silos to form. It's completely human nature to gravitate toward people who share our exact same experiences, right? But when teams naturally self-segregate by age, you completely lose out on that diversity dividend. The solution here is structured collaboration. As leaders, we have to intentionally design cross-generational mentoring, strategic partnerships, and blended project teams. You literally have to force the overlap to build that mutual respect.
Which takes us to Section 4, the Leadership Adaptation Framework. So how do we fix it? Well, right at the center of the solution sits the adaptive leader. This requires you to be highly dynamic. The framework is built on 4 distinct, very intentional phases, and they all revolve around your ability to adjust to the actual reality of your team, rather than constantly trying to force your team to adjust to you. Let's break these 4 phases down. Here's how this builds out step by step. Step 1, know yourself. You've got to identify your default style first. What generational lens is shaping your own view of leadership? Step 2, read your team. Observe their daily patterns, actually ask what each person needs, and remember, do not just assume generation equals preference. Step 3, flex with intent. This is the action phase. This is where you adjust your communication, your feedback cadence, and your recognition style for each individual. And finally, step 4, build bridges. This means creating those shared team norms and shared language around expectations, so everyone actually knows how to operate together, regardless of their different default settings. Finally, Section 5, turning diversity into advantage. When you actually get this right, the results are pretty incredible. You start taking very specific development and leadership actions that just elevate everyone. You implement things like cross-generational mentoring, where, say, a boomer's deep institutional knowledge perfectly meets a Gen Z's digital fluency. It's magic. You start offering learning and development in multiple formats, written, video, instructor-led, so that everyone is absorbing the information efficiently. But most importantly, leadership starts to model curiosity rather than frustration. And that creates an environment where every single generation's unique strength is leveraged, completely supercharging your team's innovation and problem solving. I want to leave you with this really powerful perspective-shifting takeaway that I think perfectly summarizes this entire explainer. Stop managing generations, start managing individuals. Generational insights give you a fantastic map, but you still have to navigate the actual terrain of the unique human beings on your team. It takes real effort, it takes a ton of flexing, but the payoff is a wildly resilient, deeply united workforce. For more insights on this, be sure to visit invigoratehr.com. So I'll leave you with this. Which generation's communication style are you currently ignoring, and exactly how can you flex to meet them today? Thanks for joining me.